At Children's Miracle Network at Gundersen Health System, every child served has a story of courage and perseverance. 5 of these incredible families have shared their stories with us. These are their stories.
Jude, we found out our 20-week ultrasound would be born with spina bifida and missing his left leg.
And they weren't entirely sure why that happened, but that's the way that he would be designed and made, and so that's when we found out that that was kind of the beginning of our journey. We
went through kind of the whirlwind couple of weeks of talking to a bunch of different doctors and figuring out exactly what that was going to mean when he was delivered, what we were going to have to do. Found out Jude would have to go through surgery pretty much within the first day after he was born to fix the defect in his spine.
It was hard. The very couple first weeks were very hard.
Just a lot of details to line up as far as figuring out why, how, what we're going to need to do, how we can take care of him.
What does this mean for the next several months after birth? What does this mean for his life? We spent a month in the NICU up there. He had to have another surgery at 2 weeks old.
That was to place a shunt in his brain. He had developed hydrocephalus, which is an excess buildup of fluid in his brain.
In 4 years of life, he's had 15 or 16 total shunt revisions and an additional 3 or 4 surgeries on top of that. So we're nearing 20 surgeries in just 4 years of life. And you just kind of do it, and eventually it catches up to you a little bit, but in the moment, you just know that you have to get him up to his neurosurgeon so that they can take care of it.
He does a lot of therapy with OT, PT, speech therapy, he has speech delay. The OT specifically revolves around, in one of his shunt placements, there was a bit of damage to the section of the brain that they went in. Basically damaged the section that activates movement of his left arm. So there's been a lot of therapy to regain that function.
It's really important that he continues to build his skills and development so that he can have as normal of a childhood as possible. He has received a prosthetic, and so he's doing amazing with that these days. We've recently gotten to the point where he can walk with his walker pretty much independently. He makes me really proud. He makes it easier for me to take him to all the appointments and to live this life and live this journey because he works so hard. Ma. Ma.
Sometime in the beginning of October, my wife and I both noticed that Dawson was asking for a lot of juice, a lot of water, a lot of drinks in general, and then also going to the bathroom a lot. My wife is also type 1 diabetic, so she knew and I knew that those are pretty good signs. Something wasn't quite right.
Finally, early that week, I just built up enough courage to test him and, help him be okay pricking his finger. And right away, my machine wouldn't read his blood sugar, and my machine reads up to 600, so his blood sugar was over 600, and now his range is 80 to 150, so if you can about imagine, he was very, very high. We took him right to the hospital, and we found out that he was type 1.
So when we were diagnosed, that evening we got moved to the upstairs to the hospital to stay overnight, and Dawson had to start giving shots right away of insulin. That was tough as a parent to go through that when kids are scared of needles and things like that.
I was devastated. I mean, thinking back, I know what it's like to live with the disease, so I never imagined my kids would live with it. So.
And then after about 6 months, once we began to understand his body a little better, and all the doctors were convinced that we had it under control for the most part, we got an insulin pump for Dawson, and now he's on an insulin pump.
Dawson was getting 4 shots a day before we switched to the Omnipod, so that has been just a great transition and such a big improvement for his health, but also for managing his disease.
Unfortunately, it's not a perfect science with foods we eat, activity, growing, all that, so he still gets low sometimes, and we just have to treat that, and he still gets high sometimes as well, but Once we went to the pump, it really narrowed the range of how often it happens and how high or how low it's happened. So.
We are fortunate to know how to take care of him. For the most part, you know, every day is different, but that gives us some peace of mind that we know the disease and are able to care for him because we've been around it forever.
You know, I feel like he's, 98% of what he would have been without diabetes, with the pump and with how far technology's come. And we hope a cure's right around the corner, both for my wife's sake and Dawson's.
I am Madeline Frank, and I have cystic fibrosis.
We found out that Maddy had cystic fibrosis from the hospital after she was born.
And I said, well, what's that? And all I remember from that conversation was, well, it's genetic and it's terminal. And then I kind of lost it.
We were pretty devastated by it originally, until we learned a little bit about it.
It is a genetic condition that affects the lungs and causes me to have extra mucus in my lungs and like other organs too, where it's like really thick and gross and not good.
They gave us these really cute little cups that we pounded on her with to help get the mucus out of her lungs twice a day. And we did that for the first 2 years of her life. She was sick on and off pretty much until she was probably about school age. It seemed like once a year, spring, she would just get this bout of something.
A few years later, I guess nothing really bothered me. In like elementary school, it wasn't a huge issue until I got a little bit later into 5th grade, where I had a Make-A-Wish journey, so I got to go on the trip to Hawaii. But when I got back, I was like getting to be really sick all the time.
It was pretty bad. Her lung function got really low, and so she was admitted to the hospital for a 10-day tune-up, they called it. And she got a lot of antibiotics, things like that, and we were able to stay with her at the hospital, and that's actually the only hospitalization she's had, which has been pretty cool. New medications have come out in that time, so she's now on a new medication that really has turned things around for her.
I take around like 5 different medications and pills, and then I do a vest an hour a day, twice, like 30 minutes each, where I have a machine that shakes me and like gets all the mucus out.
She likes to do everything. She's in the band, she sings in the choir. Great things for her to do because they help with her lung capacity. But she's had a great, life. She still has challenges ahead of her because this is a progressive illness, but she handles them with grace.
My name's Lane Cade, and I have leukemia, and I got diagnosed July 20th, 2017. The reason we went in was because we went to the clinic because my elbow swelled up.
It had swelled up on the right elbow, swelled up on the left elbow, swelled back up on the right elbow, and that's on the 15th is actually when we went to Viroqua.
We went into the clinic and they told us my platelets are down. We didn't think of anything of the platelets, and we actually thought that maybe it was Lyme's because swelling. First thing they tell you is don't look up your symptoms, and we did.
And we did look it up, and it was, in my heart he had it. I don't know why. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it was 12 years of bliss without it. He's just always good. He's a kid. He's just a special kid all the way around.
They called us and told us to go in, pack your stuff, take your time, and they told me I had leukemia.
It was confusion all the way around, because I didn't want to cry, but we cried, both of us. I didn't want to go there. Do I have enough gas? Did I even put gas? Now I'm thinking about everything that is not important.
I was in shock. I actually went into the mirror and was like, no, this can't be true. No. And then I walked out and I'm like, it is true. This is happening. And it was just chemo, spinal taps, and it was just intense with the chemo. They really pushed me with it.
I remember leaving the hospital room to go for very long walks because I didn't want him to see me crying. I remember him being so sick and throwing up. and I couldn't do anything more. He's strong. My kid's the strongest kid.
The doctors were really nice, and the nurses, especially in the hospital, were really nice, and love my nurses in the clinic too. And then the child life specialist, Sherry, and the one in the hospital, they really helped me through it when I was just like kind of freaking out about it and playing games with me when I was really bored in the hospital because I couldn't do much. We're in maintenance now, and our last spinal tap was the last one of 1 per month. Now I'm pretty sure it's 1 per 3 months.
You know, knowing that we're gonna survive this. We are. And like I told him, I said, cancer's not gonna get you.
It was my first pregnancy. Everything was new. It was a healthy pregnancy.
When we came close to her due date, my wife noticed that Lyla wasn't moving as much inside the womb, so the doctor said, guess what? We're having a baby today. So he went and proceeded to have an emergency C-section.
So we had her, and she was 5 pounds, 0 ounces. So she was really small. They didn't realize that she was that small before she was born. And she was full term. She wasn't breathing well either. They had to take her to the NICU, and she had like a dangerously low platelet count. So they had to give her a bunch of platelet infusions.
Did a blood test, and that blood test from Lyla came back as full trisomy 18.
Which means she has 3 chromosomes on her 18th. It's supposed to be a pair, but it's a triplet. So in every cell of her body, she has an extra chromosome.
And when we first heard that, we were quite devastated because the doctor soon, told us the life expectancy of children with trisomy 18.
And they said, this is something that's typically not compatible with life for her. So, yep, that was the most difficult moment of my entire life. They told Joel and I that we might have a couple weeks with her. We might have a couple months if we're lucky. It was a pretty devastating diagnosis for us. But Lyla decided that she had a different plan. And we had thousands, literally thousands of people praying for Lyla. She was slowly making progress in her own timeline, and that's how she's always been. Like, she kept getting stronger. She kept thriving. She started with a stander. Through birth to 3, the physical therapist had her stand. She would be strapped into this board, and it was to strengthen her hips, so to prepare for walking. So she had to do that for, I think, maybe like about 2 years. And then she used a walker probably for like 1.5 years. And then when she was 3.5, she started walking independently. And I will never forget that day. Now she says sentences and phrases, and she's really actually in this last year, now she can tell us what she wants, and she does, loudly.
Her story is quite unique. I think it gives a lot of people hope, where there shouldn't be hope, and she's a very uplifting little kiddo.
We never assumed that she was gonna die. Like, it just wasn't, I don't know, in my heart, I just refused to believe it, I think, and I didn't even heavily research trisomy 18 at that time because I thought, this is Lyla. She's not every other kid. I just chose to take it day by day and trust God and believe that she was gonna make her own path, and that's exactly what she did.
Without knowing that there's somebody in your corner, it would pretty much crush you. That's what CMN is, that there's just somebody in your corner.
Over the years, we've grown to appreciate and love all the things that Children's Miracle Network has done for us.
We are so grateful to be close to Gundersen. I've always felt that way with the care I've received, and also with him, the doctors and the nurses and the child life specialists that we had, and CMN. I mean, it was just constant support.
It's just cool to see that they just are so generous and kind and are willing to donate stuff to people who are in need.
They really helped us. We've had to go to the clinic like I said, like twice a week in the earlier stages, and they helped us with gas vouchers, which really helped a lot with going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
There was many times that we just had to go. We had to get him in the car and up to Rochester to that neurosurgery team so that they could revise those shunts. And it seems like such a little thing, but it adds up.
With a special needs child, there are things they need that are above and beyond. I mean, obviously, what a typical child would need, and if you're not getting any money for that, it's tough. And the things they need are really expensive.
We can't go to the store and buy him a bike, so CMN helped us purchase an adaptive bike. Not only is it a therapy tool, a strengthening tool, but it's really one of his favorite activities that he can do outside.
You know, she's gotten older. You know, they've helped us with Lyla getting an iPad, and that's helped her with learning her vocabulary and things in school.
She gets to go to summer camp for 6 days, the Easter Seals camp in Wisconsin Dells. She just gets to have a regular camp experience like every kid should.
I went to the STEPS camp where it was like science, technology, engineering, and mathematics.
She doesn't get to do some of those typical things. There's not camps for kids with CF because they can't be together. For me to know she's there and safe, and then it kind of, which this sounds horrible, but it gives us a break too, that we don't have to worry about treatments for a week.
Music therapy has been something, probably the best therapy for her. It's basically OT, PT, and speech all rolled into one using music.
You don't think about how stressful times when you get that kind of news and how your life's going to change. Little things like a meal voucher downstairs at the cafeteria, how that really helps relieve some stuff you don't even think about.
When he was really little, we were trying to figure out a way to help him kind of get around his environment and interact more. And we found online these plans for a little, really little kid wheelchair. They're pretty simple to build, but the materials, there's a bit of money involved there, and CMN paid for that for us, and I just built it.
Kids with disabilities want the same things that everybody else does. They want to be included, they want to have opportunities, they want to be able to do things that are fun, and their families need support in helping them do that.
The whole basis on what they're doing is helping families, and they can't do that without people helping them along.
I can speak firsthand that as a family of a child that's in CMN, that we sure appreciate it and everything that CMN does for us.
You know that they're going to use the funds wisely and that they're going to go right back to your community to help kids and families, just like Jude and just like our family.
It has enhanced Lila's life and our life to a great degree. I mean, you cannot go wrong giving to Children's Miracle Network.
They help kids all the time.
When families are faced with something devastating, they can deal with that without having financial burden.
This is CMN, and this is what I've decided that this is where I will put my money towards on my donations through the years now, because they help me so much with my kid.
It's really what we need to help boost us and keep us going.
We're just so grateful from the bottom of our hearts.
And truly, you are making a difference in these families' lives.